That looks gorgeous.
I love it so much.
You know, when
it looks gorgeous on.
When someone's under it.
I don't wear it out.
No, this is going to be fun. Whoa, that's a thorn bush. Ow. Wow. A very weird pole.
You know, what do you say when you're starting a crochet project?
Hook one off.
I think I need to put my hat on again.
But it's really plump. It's gorgeously plump and squishy.
I haven't been home for 3 whole nights. 3 whole nights, 3 whole nights. I haven't been home for 3 whole nights. Last night, tonight and tomorrow.
So it's highly likely that this little place started life as a sheep with some fields in. As a field.
And you know how when you're turning off your iPhone, you hold the button down and it says swipe the screen to turn off? He's doing this. Welcome, everybody, to the Bakery Bears video show featuring Walking the Dales.
Yes.
Yes, finally it has returned. The last time we walked in the Dales, 'twas 2020.
Wow.
And now it's a whole new year. And wasn't it one of those funny dates the other day?
Oh, it was. It was 12 to 21. Which
Oh, that is
the
weird.
same forwards as backwards.
What's a palindrome?
Same word, forwards as backwards.
I can't believe I got it right.
Like, now I'm not going to be able to think of one.
I can think of one, but I can't say it.
Why?
Mum.
Mum.
Yes. Dad.
Dad.
Aren't we clever?
How funny that they're both, like that.
Speaking of clever, we were playing... Do you know what? It was a battle of the titans. It really was a battle of the titans yesterday. We played Scrabble. What a wonderful game it is.
We love Scrabble. We play it often, don't we?
And we haven't played it all year.
Oh.
And
Stop shoving me.
I just did it once.
Shove you.
And do you know what? For the first time ever, it really was like a proper battle between the three of us.
I got really good letters for a change.
We all did.
Yeah, it was
Isn't it
really
funny, that?
good. Sometimes it's absolute rubbish, isn't it?
It is a
you'll
game
have
of
like
luck.
a whole row of vowels or consonants,
Do you
or
not
you'll
think
have
it's a game
J,
of luck?
X, and Z.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that it is. There's a bit of luck involved in it because.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a bit of luck.
It is funny too, though,
What
how
you pull out.
Yeah, but it's funny too, though, how we certainly when we play it, if it's a bad letter day, it is for everybody. We all seem to get bad letters, but yesterday we all got great letters, and it was like proper head to head.
It was really good. There's some really high scores, like in the 30s and 40s, and I think Bryony scored 50 something.
No,
was it like high 40s?
it was high 40s.
44, I think, was the highest.
Because she put quiz on a double letter. Amazing, and there was also. No, a double
triple.
word.
No,
it wasn't triple.
Oh, wasn't it triple?
No.
Was it a double word?
She had jam on a triple.
Oh, yeah, she did. Yeah.
It was a double, but there was also a double letter in there.
Ah, right.
So there was a high value double letter, and it's just such a fun game. But do you know what I realised when we were playing Scrabble? If you remember last episode, we spoke about old man noises. Well, when Kay and I stood up after we'd played Scrabble.
Where this is going? Oh, because we sit on the floor. It's difficult sitting on the floor, isn't it, when you're getting on?
My heart was slightly warmed because I thought it's not just me.
No, I could barely move when I got up from the floor. I was like,
but then I stood up and it was exactly the same. It was like, oh, isn't it funny when you get to that age? And the other thing as well that's dawned on me, just, I've not been anywhere near as bad in recent years, but I have had a bit of a history of being a bit of a joker.
Yeah.
But certainly not as bad.
You're not as annoying as you used
thanks.
to be. Yeah.
Now, as part of that being a joker, and I think it's the thing that guys do sometimes, they rib each other. And I'm just thinking about my wonderful dad, Steve, and the things that I've ribbed him over the years. And one of the things, I've actually never ribbed him over this, but what made me think of it was, and he won't be watching this, so we're fine. We sent him, Kay very kindly got me for Christmas a new iPad. And I sent him my old one.
Yeah.
And it's his very first iPad. He's had an iPhone, but he's never had an iPad. And so he got the iPad, and he waited to talk to me to set it up, which is funny, though, because he never listens to what I say anyway. No. But he still set it up just fine.
He thinks he can do it, but
it's
he
funny,
just
though.
Can't, can he?
It's funny,
He's really
though.
stubborn. He's the most stubborn man. Lovely, but, he is
he's amazing.
Incredibly stubborn.
But what's funny is that he waited to talk to me to set it up. That's what made me laugh.
Yeah, he'd had it for a few days.
He'd had it for a few days. He even texted me and he said, I'm going to wait till I talk to you to set it up because I'll have 1,000 questions. So we get on the phone, silence on the other end of the phone.
He's not a talker.
And all I hear is old man noises on the other end of the phone. The sighs and... And I'm saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? And he's not saying what's happening. What he's telling me is, he's telling me what's happened after he's done something.
Right.
And I don't know what he's done. Anyway, he gets it set up. Amazing. So I'm speaking to my mum, I think, a little bit after that. And it came to our attention that he had no idea how to turn it off.
No.
And then he announced to the world he'd never actually turned off his iPhone.
Never turned his iPhone off.
Not even once. What he does is he runs it till the battery's dead. Then he plugs it in. It powers itself back up again. And then he runs it till it's dead. And that's really bad for the battery. And funnily enough, the battery in his iPhone needs replacing.
Yeah. But I wonder how many people never switch their phones off.
There'll be a lot. Now, he has his on silent, so it's not like... And he doesn't have any notifications on. He's not doing it to stay connected.
No, he's just doing it because he doesn't know how to turn it off.
It just sits there in the corner. What he does is it sits there in the corner. He'll play maybe some Sudoku things. He'll read the paper on his iPhone.
Does he?
Steve...
Well, he can do it on the iPad
Yes,
now.
I did. I said, Steve, put it on the iPad. Do you want it in large? Oh, yeah, I suppose so. Anyway... So it reminded me of this thing that I've never ribbed him about. And that is, my mum told me, and she swore me to secrecy. She said, you must never tell him that I've told you this.
And now you're telling everybody.
Yes, I'm telling the world. When he got his first, and I just wondered, and then I'm going to denigrate myself after I've done this, so don't worry. So he gets his first iPhone, and you know how when you're turning off your iPhone, you hold the button down and it says swipe the screen to turn off. He's doing this. He's swiping his hand over the top of the screen, and my mum said...
He wasn't touching it?
No. So the phone is there, you're supposed to do that, and he's going like this. And it's not turning off. And my mum, she said she's like laughing her head off. She's like chuckling away in the background. She never once, as she told him that she knows. And what happened recently is I've realised that I've now reached the age... It's these headphones. Look, I run most days, as you know, and I've been wearing my running headphones wrong for 5 years.
Positioned in your ears wrong, weren't they?
I've just got do you know what? I feel an absolute fool. And it's made me realise...
I don't know why.
It's just made me realise now how cruel what I've just done.
Yeah, to Steve was. Because... How would you know?
Yes.
How would you know what swipe means?
Exactly. How are you supposed to know? I touch the screen and do that.
Yeah, it did. It should say touch screen and swipe or something.
Put a finger on screen and move to the right.
Yeah.
Yes.
How are you supposed to know? And especially if you're at an age where these things have come into existence whilst you've been an adult. Yeah. It's not like, kids now, teenagers now, where they've always, they've just grown up with it, haven't they?
I know.
We didn't grow up with it, so I don't know.
And technology moves so fast.
Yeah.
Speaking of technology, don't adjust your sets, ladies and gentlemen. My heart's beating slightly faster today.
Is it?
There is much excitement because, for the first time ever, we're filming and broadcasting in 4K. Now, many of you might wonder, what is he talking about? Well, I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Yes, that's exactly it. I'll tell you what I'm talking about. One of the things, nearly 6 years ago, this became our job. And what we wanted to do, and what we do every year, is we analyse everything that we do and we look at the areas that we need to get better on. Last year, for example, we wanted to introduce drone into our external filming, and we had no idea how that was going to go, and we're just thrilled that you guys love it, and also it just feels like a natural extension of what we do, which is great. So much so that, as you well know, He even has a name. Kevin. He's part of the team. And every year we've done exactly that. We've looked at what we've done. And it was 2 years ago that we started broadcasting in one down from 4K.
3K?
No, it's 2.7K actually. I know. Look, I don't want you to worry about these numbers. All I want you to know is when you hear about people talking about Blu-rays, Ultra HD, all of that. That is what we're in now. We're in Ultra HD. Now the question you might be asking is, how do I watch it in Ultra HD? Well, many of you it will automatically happen, and even for those people who don't know how to select Ultra HD with their viewing on YouTube, it will most probably just happen anyway. The picture quality will naturally just look better. But what we've done, and this is actually a big part of what we do, yes, the majority of this is for our patrons, but we make lots and lots of videos, and quite often those videos that we make and that we broadcast every week are ones helping you enjoy what we do a bit better. And one of those videos, in fact, the whole series that we made about enjoying what we do is open to everybody. And one of those videos only takes 5 minutes to watch. It's about how you watch with the best possible picture. And I've linked it in the show notes below. So if you want to find out how to watch the show in so Kay looks like she's literally in the room with you.
Scary.
Yeah, no. All you need to do is just follow the link below and then you can select 4K. It's very exciting because what it does is it opens up to us a whole new sort of realm of production elements. So we can take everything from, the things that Kay does, like My Favourite Colourways and the Pudding Club and all the lovely things that you do. Also, things like walking the moors, walking the dales, those outdoor bits of filming that we do. We can really really go for it. We can adopt some movie techniques so we can make some really wonderful things that, we can all enjoy and watch together. And speaking of wonderful things, oh my goodness, it couldn't have fallen better that we start broadcasting in 4K and the Walking the Dales.
Oh, everyone.
Honestly.
Oh my goodness.
You need to hold on to your hats.
It's so beautiful.
It was like, do you know what?
It's like a winter wonderland.
It's just like everything just came together. You think, okay, we've made this big sort of decision that, okay, we're going to, do what we need to do to start broadcasting with this really wonderful picture. And it's as if the world said, here you go then. I'll put you on a film set.
Beautiful snow.
Did you see that at the start of the show? Did you see those outtakes? It's like it's Narnia.
It is not. It's just so pretty. I was watching it back, and
it felt to me. I'm telling you,
it's the prettiest and most beautiful one that you've ever done.
I was gobsmacked. I was there, and I was gobsmacked. I'm like, I can't believe what I'm seeing.
The picture quality as well is so much better this time. It's really like you're just there. And the sounds, I'm going to say it again, but, if you want to, and if you can, if you've got the ability to do it, stick your earbuds in when you watch.
Very immersive.
Because you just hear all of the, for example, when the drone's up above the trees, you can hear the trees crackling. And it must be like the snow and the ice
That is exactly on the trees. And it's all to come later on in the show. It really was like fate, and I'm so excited now about the rest of this series, but also what is to come, because we've always had a plan ever since day one, since we started with Baker and Bear Productions, and all these years later we've now got hours and hours of footage there, for people to watch whenever they want to watch all the wonderful things that we've produced. What excites me though now is when I look back at some of the stuff that we did 5 years ago with the slightly wobbly camera and maybe with the sound.
Yeah, I know, but everything in life. We didn't know. Everything in life is a progression, isn't it?
Yeah.
And everything that you do in life, you're learning. It's like knitting. Something that the first thing you knit is not going to be the quality of the thing you knit 10 years later, is it? It's just like life,
Yeah. I'm going to shut up because this is, of course, a knitting show, and we've got we have an awful lot of wonderful things to show you.
We do. I've just realised that all 3 of my things I'm going to show you are all new. That's amazing, isn't it?
And I have one new thing.
And you've got one new thing.
I do indeed.
Wow.
So, without further ado, I think it's time that I said, Kay Jones, what's on your needles?
Well, my first thing is a new sock.
Beautiful.
And it's in one of my, if not the favourite bag. I love this bag. It's from Emma at Eldon Woodcraft. I've shown this bag loads of times. And I think she has done some more of these fairly recently in this fabric. It's the ones with the pink-haired lady walking through the forest with the little dog.
So cute.
Oh my goodness, I just love it. It's just the perfect size bag for socks, and I pretty much always got this one on the go. You know, it's just a simple drawstring. My favourite, you know, there's no pocket inside, which again is my favourite. I don't mind having pockets inside. I just find that for me, it's just, I find it unnecessary.
I like pockets on big bags. So
yeah, big bags is better, isn't it?
If I'm doing like a garment,
yeah,
then some pockets in there, that's just brilliant.
Yeah, and it's, you know, they are useful to put other things, but I just like the simplicity of just having the bag. So
with a smaller bag, it's a nightmare for me because you might stick something in and it goes in the pocket and then...
I know, and yeah, it's like there's two places to look in the bag for something instead of just one place, and I know that. Everyone's different, and I know lots of people who love having a pocket, and I don't mind it. I'm not pocket adverse or anything like that. So in my lovely bag, I've started a new sock, and this is a new design actually.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
It is.
Oh my goodness, I've not seen this.
Have you not?
The colour's amazing.
It's the colour of the yarn that just made me wanting, you know, I just had to cast this on. I think cast it on maybe the day after I received it. Oh, I just love the colour so much. And the yarn, I'll show you the yarn in a second, but it's from Eden Cottage Yarns. I particularly love her tonals because they're just brilliant for sock design. It's designing. You know, I'm always looking for, when I'm looking at a fingering weight yarn, my first thought in my head is, how would that work up in a sock design? And although I love variegated yarns, I absolutely love them, you know, I'll happily knit with them. They can sometimes be tricky with sock designs because it can disguise the design and sort of just take over a little bit from what you want to show on the sock. But tonals, you know, you're never going to have that problem. I just love a pair of socks in just a tonal yarn. I think it's the simplicity of it, and then it's also you're just showing off the design to its best. So I bought a few skeins actually from Eden Cottage recently because I wanted to just refresh my designing yarn stash, if you like, and I sort of rearranged a few things up there too. And this was one of the ones that I bought. And it's on the Rosedale base, which I love. It's 80% superwash, superfine merino, 15% nylon, 5% gold stellina. And you get 400 metres. So perfect fingering weight. But it's really plump. It's gorgeously plump and squishy. It's a beautiful base. So it's the Rosedale base. She also does a base which is called Brimham, which is the same base but it doesn't have the sparkle, and I love that one as well. But this particular colour that I got is called Algae, you know, named after the sort of stuff on ponds. And I got a mini as well, and I'll show you the mini in a second, but this is the colour. How gorgeous is that colour?
Stunning.
And that is, actually, looking on the screen, that is true to colour.
I should hope so, Kate. It's 4K.
I know. But sometimes greens and blues can be a problem, can't they, when you get them on screen? But that
something
is
that I
really
noticed
true to colour.
when I was editing up the Walking the Dales that you're going to see later is this 4K filming seems to capture colours so much better.
Yeah. Oh, it's just such a gorgeous colour. There's a lot of yellow in it. It's a very yellowy green. Oh my goodness, I just love it so much. And I bought a mini as well, and I don't know whether I'm going to put this mini into the socks. I might just do it all in the green. I haven't decided yet. But this colour is gorgeous too. So I've got a mini in the same base, and this is Stone Crop. And when I bought it, I thought, oh, it's just going to be like a fairly... I thought it to be like a stony colour, but actually it's a very soft pink. And it's gorgeous. Look, can you see? Look how beautiful that is, that colour. And I just thought, you know, that as the heels and toes. How pretty is that? So I might use it, I might not. I've not decided yet because I just love this green so much. And I don't often knit a sock design where it's just all in one colour. And I think this might just warrant doing it all in one colour. So I'll show you the sock. I haven't got very far with it, but I came up with this design actually. Do you know when I was speaking? It was a radio show. I spoke on a radio show recently about the fact that I'd sort of retracted from watching the news and various other sort of digital things. And what that had done is just given me time. It gave me the gift of time. And it's just been fantastic. So yeah, this was one of the designs that I came up with during this sort of extra time that I created for myself by not watching things that I didn't need to watch, basically. And I just love it. And I thought, right, do you know what? I'm gonna get that green yarn and I'm gonna put this pattern into it. And I know exactly now the inspiration, and I think I pretty much know what I'm going to call it. But here's where I'm up to. Oh, I love it so much. So we've got some bands of like a V-lace and then some garter strips here, and then it's sort of like a little bit of a garter rib in between the lace, and it's on both sides. I do always, I don't really ever design socks where the pattern's only on the front. If there is something where there's a pattern on the front, I usually put something on the back as a detail, because I just prefer to have it going all the way around the leg. It's just my preference, but you could just put it on the front of the sock if you wanted to. You don't have to put it all the way around. And I just love it. And as I was knitting it, the colour and the design made me think of a place in the Lake District where we always go for a picnic when we're there, and we've mentioned it several times, and it's a tarn and it's called Moss Eccles, and it's where Beatrix Potter got the inspiration for Jeremy Fisher. She used to walk up there, and her husband had a little boat, and they used to go out on the tarn in the boat, and we always go for a picnic there. It's one of our favourite things to do. It's just such a pretty place for a picnic. We love it. And this is what it made me think of. The colour makes me think of all of the sort of trees that are around the tarn, and undoubtedly I'm sure that it would get algae on it at some point in the year. But the actual stitch pattern, the sort of V-lace, makes me think of the wings of ducks, because there's always ducks on there, the wings of the ducks flying down, and then the little garter strips makes me think of ripples on the tarn as they land, and wind blowing on it, and you get those ripples. So it just all made me think of that. So it may be that I call this sock Moss Eccles. It just seemed really a perfect name. And I'm really enjoying knitting it. It's the kind of pattern, it's quite involved. You do get rest rows, but it's quite involved. But I really love that, because what it's forcing me to do is really to just focus on my knitting. And, I think sometimes that's really good to do that. It's really good just to only fill your mind with that one thing. And you love knitting for that reason, don't you?
Well, yeah. That's all I do when I knit. I don't want to knit. Maybe on a night if I'm tired, but I don't really want to. I don't like mindless knitting.
No, and I know that I like mindless knitting as much as anyone really, but I think sometimes it's just really good for your brain, and really good, just to give your brain a rest from all the other things that are going on in there, and just to fill it with that one thing, just to focus on that one thing. So this has been brilliant for that, and I'm just absolutely loving knitting it. So I'm just going to carry on with that, and I'm not in any rush to finish it. I'll just keep you updated and show you my progress as I knit my way through it. But the yarn is beautiful. It's just so gorgeous. I love a sock yarn that's really lovely and plump and squishy, and just gives you great stitch definition. And it's just a joy. The sparkles in it are gorgeous, and they don't often transfer, but maybe you did see a few sparkles in it this time. And I've done a 1x1 rib. I'm sure you saw. I absolutely love a 1x1 rib. And in fact, I wanted to write a knitability article about the joy of a 1x1 rib, because I know that a lot of people don't like it, because I've heard a lot of people say that their 1x1 ribs are a little bit untidy. I can understand that, and again, this has made me think about I'm going to do a Patreon tutorial on how to get a neat rib, particularly a 2x2, because I think the problem is it's the transition between the gauge for your knits and your purls. And actually within this sock, you've got that. Can you see where we've got the garter? And what can happen, there's 2 knit stitches down the middle here. And what can happen is that one of the knit stitches can be tighter than the other one as you transition between the knit and the purl. And it can give you like a looser stitch. So I've been quite deliberate on this sock when I'm transitioning, and that's all it takes. You just have to be a bit more aware when you're moving from a knit to a purl, that you keep that tension and that you don't sort of, as you bring the yarn around to the front ready to purl, just give it a little tug, because that then will make sure that that knit stitch before the purl isn't going to be too loose. And it's just come out perfectly. It just looks so neat and lovely, doesn't it? And I've not even blocked it yet. So yeah, I'm going to carry on knitting that. And actually, I brought another pair of socks to show you, because I think the reason I love this green so much is it made me think of another pair of socks that I knit years ago. And actually, I barely wear them because I love them so much. And the green is different, but it made me think of it. And I thought, right, I'm going to dig those out and I'll show you. And it's these ones. Can you see it's much darker? But you can understand where, how it made me think of it.
Yeah. And
this pattern is called the Almondine, and it's out of a book, and I think it's by Anne Budd.
Right.
It's on my Ravelry project page if you want to have a look at it. And I knit these years ago. I don't know how many years ago, but I bet it's 4 or 5. And this yarn was a gift from a lovely friend in America. It's the Plucky Knitter Primo Fingering. And by chance, I'm going to be talking about that in another project, that exact yarn. But I love these socks so much. I have worn them. You can see there's wear on the bottom here because it's paler. But I don't wear them very often because I just love them so much. But you can see sometimes what happens with a tonal yarn. Can you see how these are producing a sort of stripe across them? I don't mind that so much. That doesn't bother me, but tonal yarn can sometimes do that. It depends how it's being dyed, I think. But that's really made me think of these socks, which I loved so much. So yeah, that'd be fun to show you that.
Cool.
Dan Jones?
Yes.
What's on your needles?
Well, it's a finished sock. There is another one on my needles. I'll show you in a minute. It's the Fairy Wings socks. And
I've got a better block of it.
Oh, this is fine. Something has sort of come to pass which is just marvellous, because Kay last year made for a very lovely family member of ours a pair of socks, and they ended up being released as the Dunbrock socks.
Yes.
And she dyed up 2 skeins of yarn and then decided on which one to knit the Dunbrock in, and the other one went into Kay's stash. Well, when I cast these on, well, obviously before I cast them on, Kay went and got the yarn and said, oh, you might like to use that. And I was like, oh, great. I just thought, I'm going to knit them, and, they'll be for Kay, maybe for Bryony. But then I'm knitting through, and I just thought, well, no, I should knit them, and we should send them so they can be with their partner, the Dunbrock. So the Fairy Wings will be winging their way probably sometime next year when I finish these socks to Edinburgh.
Because they've also come out a bit bigger, haven't they? Because your gauge has loosened off.
Yeah, because I was knitting these, or I still am knitting these, on a 2.75.
It's a gorgeous colour.
And I've gone down to a 2.5, haven't I?
You've gone down to a 2.5 now, yes.
So these are 2.75. These are the cubics, which I love. Yeah. The more I knit with these, the more I love them. So drop down to a 2.5.
Look at that.
And this yarn, of course, was dyed by Kate.
Gorgeous. Yes. So this is just a more orange version of the one that I used for the Dunbrock.
Yeah.
But because they came out a bit bigger as well, the person they're going to does have a slightly bigger foot than me or Bryony, so it's perfect. They came out a bit bigger.
Well, it all made sense, and I wish I'd thought of it before. So I'm really thrilled to be knitting them, and they'll be being sent off once they're done. So it's a slightly longer leg than I normally do too, which is cool. Yeah. And obviously it's a longer foot and a slightly bigger fit, so it should fit her perfectly. And I think it will. I have cast on the second sock. Now, one thing I will say about the cubics is when I was casting on, I can't remember at what stage it was, but the needle started to bend.
Bend?
Yeah.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Where's the other one?
I'm not sure. Is it that one? Or is it one of these?
Well, I mean, they've got a little bit of give in it, but not a lot.
I think it's that one.
It actually bends.
Oh, yeah, it did, yeah.
I don't know how. Maybe you've got really hot hands and you like melted the steel.
Yeah. I'm like an X-Men.
Superman. I mean, they've not really got that much give.
Well, it properly bent the end.
Goodness me.
I think it was when I was slipping the. It was when I was slipping the needle. It was when I was slipping the stitches onto the needles after I cast
them all on.
Yes.
Right.
So I'm slipping them across, and it starts to go.
That's very peculiar.
Yeah, I know. So
you're like, who's that fellow who used to bend spoons?
Oh, that's Uri Geller.
Uri Geller. You're like Uri Geller.
Yeah. Oh no. I love this pattern. It's the fairy wings. I love this pattern. It's so much fun. Oh, I'm so relieved because I'm very particular about the sock patterns that I enjoy knitting. And if I don't like it, I really, really don't like it. So like textural.
No, you don't. No, you don't like a sort of.
It's monotonous and boring, and I'm not into it.
Yeah, anything with like maybe just a small texture that repeats over and over and over, you don't like that.
Definitely not for me at all. This is really quite intense, and I mentioned this last time I showed them, but I'm loving the fact that it's working out elements of medicine which I'm not used to, like the central double decrease, and I now feel like I've got that nailed, and I was awful at it. Awful. Wonderful.
You've got the skills now
to pay the bills. Kate Jones, what's on your hook?
Well. Do you know last time?
Yes.
When I finished my... Oh, it's here.
Yes, and you told everyone to say don't do it, and clearly nobody did. Clearly they all went, go on. What do you say when you start?
I don't know. What do you say when you start in a crochet project?
Hook one off.
That can't possibly be right. I don't know. Crocheters out there, tell us what you say when you start a project in the sentence, oh, I cast this on today. What do you say if you're crocheting it? I hooked it on. No, because we don't say I needled it, because that's what we use.
Yeah.
So maybe we do just say cast it on. I don't know. Such frivolity.
Yes.
Anyway, yes, my lovely pink and peachy blanket, which I've been using and I love.
It is gorgeous.
Oh, I love it so much.
I'm not a lover of blankets, but that looks gorgeous.
I love it so much.
When
it
someone's
looks gorgeous on.
When someone's under it.
I don't wear it out.
No, but you sit under it and it looks so pretty.
It's gorgeous. And actually I weighed this because I realised one of the things that I didn't know is how much yarn I'd used. And it weighs just short of 600 grams, which I think is a nice amount, really. It doesn't seem too daunting, does it, 600 grams of yarn? So, yes, I finished this gorgeous pink blanket, and I do think the colours look brighter, don't they, on the screen? I'm just saying, look at all the colours.
Well, clearly Kay's enjoying the 4K,
I'm
everybody.
enjoying looking at the colours, everyone.
So and hopefully you are too.
I said, didn't I? I'm not going to start another one. Oh,
it's all right. Carry on.
I'm not going to start another one until I've finished the triangle moss stitch shawl thing.
Have you finished it?
No.
Right.
And I'll tell you what happened, right? I have been doing that. Like I said, I've been doing that half a row of the moss stitch triangle thing in the morning, but it just didn't have the same feel. It just wasn't doing it for me. I just really loved doing the granny stripe. So yes, I started another. And I also didn't go with the colours that I showed you last time.
It was a ruse.
Those kind of creams.
She caught you out.
And pale blues, because I'd been staring at those yarns for a few days, and I would love a blanket in those yarns.
But you just don't want to.
No, I just don't think I want to make it, because I think for me, you see, more than half of the joy of a project is working with the yarn. And I think if I'd just used all of those really pale colours, I think I would have just got bored, because it's just all a bit uninteresting, isn't it, to work with? And I would love the actual finished blanket. I'm sure it would be absolutely beautiful. But I just thought, no, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through all of my minis and leftovers and everything, and every time I see one I like, I'm just going to stick it in a bag, and that's what I've done, and I'm just going with that. So yes, I've started another one exactly the same as that last one. So I've chained 200, and I'm using a 3mm hook. But now I'll tell you what's slightly different, and it's nothing really. But do you know how...
Good story, Kay.
Thanks. Do you know how when you start your granny stripe, you do a number of chains? So for me, I did 200 chains. And I know there is a way of doing a chainless start to it, so where you work that first row of grannies at the same time. I don't feel the need to try that because I actually like doing the chains and I like doing that first row of double crochets into it. I've not got a problem. I actually enjoy the process. But you've got to be careful with that first row of chains that they're, first of all, not too tight. If they're too tight, it will sort of, the edge will sort of curve in a little bit. It'll be really taut, and it'll pull in. And if it's too loose, you end up with kind of like a bit of a loopy edge. It's better to be a bit loose, I would say, than tight.
Not a loopy edge.
No, a loopy one.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, funny.
Sorry.
You're hilarious today.
Yeah, I know.
What a joker.
I had an antihistamine.
Did you really?
No.
Oh, right, okay. Because Bryony was sneezing like crazy yesterday.
Yes, and then we gave her an antihistamine, and then she was like...
She was a bit delirious, but it's an antihistamine she has quite often. I think she was just having a bit of a teenage... She was having a bit of a teenage moment.
Cracking wise, going crazy, dancing really around funny. Like a nutcase.
But it has warmed up a lot recently, and that does sort of...
They said
everything up, doesn't it, pollen-wise? Anyway... Last time on that pink one, I think I did get the chains a little bit too loose. So this time what I did was I went up, how many sizes? I don't know how many sizes it is. I'm using a 3mm for the actual blanket. And I did the chain with a 3.75mm. So I don't know how many sizes up that is. I don't know how many more there are in between. 2 sizes up? Not sure. 3? No, I don't know. But what I also did, so I used a 3.75 to do my chains, but I also made sure that I wasn't doing that really tight. When I did a chain, I just gave a little bit of extra yarn to the chain. Do you know what I mean? As you sort of chaining. And I think this time it's worked out perfectly, and I think I've got it, really fairly spot on. So this is where it's that way up, but I'll show you can you see that edge there? This is where I cast on. I'm going to say cast on. I can't think of what else to say. This is where I cast on here. And I think it's really nice and even. It's got a nice amount of stretch, but not too much. It's not pulling in. It's not dead loopy. So yeah, this is my new blanket, everyone.
Marvellous.
So I've done this much. Not a lot, but look. Oh, I'm loving that yarn I'm putting in at the moment. See the blue with the little pops of sort of pink and green. So the yarn I started with here was a mini. It was a Buffy inspired mini, and I think it was called I Mock You With My Monkey Pants, which was a line from Seth Green. It was him. That was a line from him, and I don't know where the purple comes in, and I can't remember that exact scene in Buffy, but anyway, I started it with that one. And then this one I think was a Fine Fish Yarns, the sort of pale pink with all those specks. And then this one is a Martin's Lab that I'm just putting in. And some of these two I think were from Kelly in my Advent swap.
That's Kelly Lay of Lay Family Yarns.
Yeah. And the Buffy one, I actually got an Advent calendar. It was a 12 days of Christmas Advent calendar from the Yarn Lab, and it was all Buffy inspired, and that was one of them. So yes, I've started another, and do you know what? I don't care. I don't care that I've not finished the triangle one. I will, and I have been working on that, just not in the morning. I just like this for first thing in the morning. There's just something about having that little row to do, and I have done a bit more than 1 row a day because I wanted, you're excited, aren't you, at the beginning of a project? But I will now I'll see. I might stick to the 1 row a day and just see how we get on. And I just love it. So it's just going to be really eclectic. I've just got a whole mix. Ooh, did one fall out? No. I've just got a big mix of yarn in there, all sorts. Just anything that I thought was really pretty. Nothing really dark. And I don't mind if it's sort of bright, as long as it's a pretty bright. Does that make sense? Rather than a bright red or bright green or these sorts of brights, I think are lovely. And I got these ones recently, actually, and I'd never heard of this make of Mini. Can you see there? Is it Lens? I think it's French, so it'd be Len, would it? I got these from Loop in London, and they come in these gorgeous little, they're pre-wound in these little 20-gram ones, and this one's called Robin the Bakery. So I've got all of these lovely little colours in that. So they'll be going in. I think they're really sweet. I was going to use them for a different project, but I thought, you know what, I'm just going to put them in this blanket because that's what I want to do. And then I've just got leftovers and minis and everything. So yeah, this pattern is by Attic24. It's Lucy of Attic24, and it's free on her blog. There's like a photo tutorial taking you all the way through it, step by step. And you know, you can do it in whatever yarn you want. I just love them in fingering weight, you know, for leftovers. And I use Magic Knot for this. It's funny actually, I only really use Magic Knot for crochet. I don't use it in knitting. I don't know what, I think it's just, I don't know. I trust it in crochet. I feel like there's not as much tension on the Magic Knot when it's in crochet somehow. And I've never had a knot fail within a blanket when it's crochet. So, but when I put it into knitting, and I have done that before, even if it's when it's into garter stitch, I still feel like you can see it and you can feel it. But when it's in crochet, I don't think you can see it at all. So yeah, Magic Knot in this, but I weave in ends on knitting.
So, in my quest to have a trophy cupboard full of sweaters, of course, I'm talking about colour work. Yeah, it's preferably Icelandic style sweaters.
He's addicted.
I decided that to get a trophy cupboard, you've got to cast on and get knitting. So I've only gone and cast on another jumper for myself. Oh my goodness, it's true. I do feel slightly addicted. So first of all, what is it I've cast on? Because I've only done a few rows and I've only just at the bottom. Well, look at this. We've got a book. How marvellous is this? And now, if you're like me, when I looked at that picture, I thought, my goodness, they're young parents. How old must they have been when they had these two? And then Kay said, no. I think they're all siblings.
I think they're all siblings.
So the one I'm knitting is this one here.
It's really lovely.
It's absolutely gorgeous. It's by the same designer. There's loads of weird graves and things in her name. So it's the same designer as the Radari.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to pronounce that. So please do enlighten us. I'm sure there'll be lots of people who'll be able to tell us. And then from now on, I'll then be able to tell you what it's called. So that's the jumper that I'm knitting. It's free.
It's free. You can get it on Ravelry. By chance, I bought this Lopi book.
Yeah.
I bought another knitting pattern, which I'll show you actually in Endy Bits, and I saw these books and I thought, oh, I'm going to get one of those for Dan.
It's cool.
And it happened to be in this one that I chose.
It's called Fate.
Amazing.
So, the yarn. Now, first of all, I need to apologise because thanks to me there appears to be a global shortage of Let Lopi yarn.
There is an absolute global shortage of this Let Lopi. I had a real problem finding it. I looked at everywhere and I thought, I'm not going to be able to find any. And then I did.
So I've cast on with this. This is Galaxy.
Oh, it's amazing.
There's so many colours in here. You can see it. There's greens and blues. And yes, it is blacky, but it's not. I mean, really, if you looked at that, you'd say it's blue.
It's gorgeous.
Someone else might even say it's dark green. I mean,
maybe. I think it's more of a... or even dark purple. It's strange. It's just a dark colour with all of these tiny flecks of different colours in. It's absolutely gorgeous.
So that is the cast on edge for the jumper and also for the sleeves, and then it also reappears in the motif at the top.
Yeah, and in the neck. You need a dark colour, a light colour, and then a body colour.
So the light colour is this one.
It's just white, I think.
Yeah. Which is lovely, and it feels pretty good. What I found with this is it broke again on me. If you remember when I cast on the sleeves, I think it was, I don't think I had a problem with the body because you didn't cast on with it. You cast on with the brown, and then you did
that's
some.
Right.
Yes,
yeah, that's right.
So it's clearly the cast on edge,
maybe
being a bit tighter.
Yeah, maybe.
So it split. And I had, it broke. And I had to tink back, and I was tinking back, right on a cast on edge. Oh, it's tricky, but brilliant, tink back a little bit, spit, splice, boom, done. And then the main colour, the body, look at this.
It's gorgeous.
Now that's nice.
It's a lovely colour for you, you know, when
Imagine me in that.
Think about Dan's colouring. I think it's a great colour.
Imagine me striding across the moors in this.
You'll match.
Yeah, I know.
You'll disappear.
It's going to be marvellous.
And that colour's called lime grass, I think. Lyme grass. Lime grass. And again, I worried when I ordered this because I thought, you never know what greens are going to look like. But luckily, it's really nice, isn't it? And I think it will suit him. But yeah, this is really hard to find now, to come by. It could be that maybe, I don't know what time of year sheep are shorn, you know. I don't know if it's once a year or twice a year. I just don't know. But I suspect they will produce all they can produce at one time or two times.
Yeah.
And then it's going to run out, isn't it, until next time?
Yeah.
So it could be that, or it could be that, because I've also struggled to find another yarn, and I'll tell you about that in Endy Bits, because I think yarn is just generally in short supply, commercial yarn. Really we're talking about, rather than hand dyed, because I think people are just knitting in lockdown. I think a lot of knitters I do think, because I know that certain yarn shops have put up notices saying that they've been absolutely inundated, like Wool Warehouse and Lovecraft and places like that, which is great for business, isn't it? You know, it's brilliant that there's a positive out of all of this, but it does also mean that you might struggle to find the yarn that you want. But luckily we found some. So
I'm knitting this. These are 4mm long circular thingies, and I'll be moving up to 5mm.
Yeah, the pattern calls for, I think it was 3.5 and 4.5mm, but because Dan knits tight, we've gone for 4mm and 5mm.
We've matched the cast on from the Radari.
Yes, I think you're doing the size large, aren't you?
Yes.
It's not the biggest one, it's the next down.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'll look forward to you enlightening me on how you pronounce that. Because that does look like a fun word.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another fun word is plotulopi.
That's another, I know that.
Yeah.
It's like, it means plate, I think.
It's an unspun wool and therefore very loosely structured.
It pulls apart. If you think that's bad, that one, I've seen a few people knitting with it, and it comes in like a great big disc like that, like a plate, and I think that's why it's called that. It's like, you know, a plate of lopi.
You can knit straight from the plate, or wind the strands together,
or you can wind it, and you've got to be so careful with it. I think once it's knit together into a fabric, it's fine. Yeah. But it's really delicate to actually knit with. You'd have no chance. You'd be breaking it every inch, I reckon.
So what else is on your needles?
Well, the last thing is another sock, and this is actually a sock that I'm going to be frogging. However, I wanted to show it to you because I think it's a good exercise in what yarns suit certain patterns and what yarns don't.
Yes. What
I'm doing, I'll tell you what I'm doing first of all, is I want to knit up a fresh sample of my prairie socks pattern. And the prairie socks is a design that I designed, some years ago now, and I did refresh the pattern, I believe, last year, the actual formatting of the pattern, but I really want to redo the photos. Again, it's, you know, as we spoke about before, you just get better quality technology, and the camera that I was using at the time is just not as good quality as the one that we've got now, and when I look at the photos I'm like, you know, I can do that better really. And I thought, right, okay, well, it's a good chance to just knit up another sample because I love this pattern, it's really lovely to knit. I thought, right, okay, let's choose a yarn, and I chose a yarn, and I didn't know at the time whether it'd be okay or not, but you only know by trying it, you know. So I thought, right, okay, let's cast on, and I knit a little bit, and I was umming and ahhing, and I thought, you know what, I usually know pretty much straight away if a yarn's going to be right for a design, a pattern. And this one it's a bit too, it just disguises the stitch pattern a little bit too much, when my purpose is I want to show it clearly on photos for a pattern. But the yarn I'm using is one I referenced earlier, and it's the Plucky Knitter Primo Fingering. The mix of a Primo Fingering is 75% superwash merino, 20% cashmere, 5% nylon. So there's not a lot of nylon in it, but I will sacrifice that for how lovely a yarn this is to work with. And it's a plumper yarn as well. You get 440 yards, but it's 115 grams. So it is it is a plumper fingering weight. And as you can see, it's called Amber Wheat, which for the prairie socks, I thought that's perfect, isn't it? Because if I can connect it, I do like to do that as well. And this is the yarn. And when I looked at it, I thought, yeah, I think that will work. But it does have quite a lot of speckling in it and variation. It's a gorgeous yarn, isn't it? And when I started knitting it, I just didn't think you could see the stitch pattern enough. I mean, you can't, can you?
No.
You can see why, you can see the speckling pretty much all over, and the variegation in the yarn. It's just disguising the stitch pattern. And some yarns do that, and I got that far and I thought, nah, I'll just rip it out straight away. And Dan says, no, you should talk about it because it's an interesting thing, really.
Well, it is. And the other thing is as well, and that just refreshed my memory as to why I specifically said, Kay recently published it wasn't really a tutorial, It was more a sort of knit along with Kay special where Kay spoke about knowing your yarn weights.
Yeah.
And people absolutely loved that, everyone who watched it. And what they said was they would love a follow-up where you talk about types of yarn and the types of project which they work for and that they don't. And what this is a perfect example of when,
yeah, and
the type
I think
of yarn hasn't worked.
It's a very personal choice, isn't it? Because what one person would use for one pattern, another person wouldn't. So it is a really personal choice at the end of the day. But talking from the perspective of wanting to best show off the design that's on the sock, then I can speak to what I think works and what sometimes is not the best.
There's an element of education in this too, because if I was to knit that up, I would look at it and I'd be a bit and I'd be disappointed.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense, because when you look at the pattern, it's gorgeous.
I've dug out the original prairie socks. These are the exact socks that are photographed on the pattern. And Bryony's been wearing these for a number of years, and you can see that she's been wearing, and can you see all the wear on the bottom? However, when you look at them, the stitch pattern is showed off really nicely, and yet this is, as you can see, is also a speckled yarn. Now, I think the difference is that this one is much paler for starters, I think, and also the speckles in it are more they're not as intense. They're a little bit more blurred. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a blurriness rather than those intense pops of specks of colour. And this was Stranded Dye Works in Nougat. And I think it worked perfectly for the pattern. So I'm kind of after something, I think, similar to this. But what I also loved about this yarn was it was on the base that had some cashmere in it. It's really plump and bouncy and lovely. And that also showed off the Italian Eye of Partridge heel, which you can't really see now because it's just been worn so much. It doesn't really show up very well. But I find, and I don't know if this is just me, when I knit an Eye of Partridge heel, if I use, for example, a standard 75-25, the one that's very smooth, I sometimes can't even see the pattern. You get that sort of checkerboard pattern a little bit, don't you? I can't even see it. And it could be the way that I knit, or I don't know what it is. But I do find that if you use a yarn that's a bit plumper, like a cashmere one's a bit plumper, or I don't think I'd use a 2-plied yarn. I don't really want a 2-plied yarn for this. I want a 3 or 4-plied, usually 4-plied yarn, isn't it? Yeah, so I'm just having sort of dilemmas at the moment as to what yarn to use. And it could be, I bought another of the Primo fingering. Oh look, I've made really prettiness up here, and I'm going to wreck it now. That's not too bad. I bought another one in just a sort of tonal, and this one was bisque. And that one would work. It's just a tonal, it would definitely work. But I kind of want one with a little bit more interest for it, and so I think I'm trying too hard to find a yarn, and I think what I'm going to do is just let it be, and no doubt I will just come across the yarn that I think that's the perfect yarn for the prairie socks. And it may be that I dye something. I did think about that as well.
I don't think it would take long, though, to find something that had light speckling on it.
No, I don't think it would either. But it's also the base.
Yeah.
I don't want that normal 75-25. I want either, like this one was the cashmere one that's got, I can't remember the percentage, but you know the one, it's got some cashmere and some nylon. Or I want something like the green that I'm knitting those socks with. And I have gone and looked on Victoria's shop to try and find something sort of speckly there, but I just couldn't quite find the right colour. So I'm on the lookout, and when I find it and I start it again, then I'll let you know.
Folks, last year we brought you the very first season of Walking the Dales, and after our first walk of this year, in episode 167, where we ventured out into the moors, today it's time to get back to those dales. And this is a walk I've wanted to do for years because it's just laden with wonderful history. So can you imagine my surprise and excitement when I turned up on the filming day and it looked like a film set? So I think it's time I shut up. We strapped on our snowshoes as we once again go walking the dales.
Welcome everyone to a brand new season of walks. Over the next few months we'll be undertaking 5 hikes in the Yorkshire Dales and 5 hikes in the North York Moors.
We're going to be walking through a landscape I've spent the last 35 years exploring, and I can't wait to share with you some of my favourite destinations and the stories that surround them.
From mysterious castles to beautiful forests and long-forgotten villages, in this series we're going to undertake some wonderful adventures. But where are we heading today? Welcome everybody to Kirkbridge, a tiny hamlet just between Swaledale and Teesdale. Now, today we're really going to be pushing the boundaries a little bit on our walk because we're right on the border of the classical Yorkshire Dales National Park. But this is a walk I've wanted to do for years, and I'll tell you why. One of my absolute idols is Mick Aston from the UK TV show Time Team. And if you were to ask him what were his top 5 historical sites in all of the United Kingdom, this place would always come in his top 5. Our walk today is going to take us around Stanwick St John. This is the site of one of the most important Iron Age hill forts in all of Great Britain. In 50 AD, as the Romans arrived and started marching up the country and conquering all who stood in their way, from here, Queen Cartimandua of the Brigantes, that was the tribe that lived right here, they would have most probably been planning their resistance and working out how they were going to defend themselves against the all-conquering Roman army. But I'll tell you something, for a place that once bristled with fortifications and bustled with Celtic warriors, couldn't be more different today. Now, I've been lucky enough over the years to visit here many times, but I'm ashamed to say once again that I've never walked here. And there's so much wonderful things just hidden in the landscape waiting for us to discover. It's going to be quite challenging today because, as you probably noticed, we've had quite a heavy fall of snow, but I think that's going to make it rather fun too. Along today's route, there's everything from 5 miles of ditches that used to surround the Iron Age hill fort to reconstructions of what the ditch and the wall that used to look like that once again surrounded that hill fort to beautiful churches, tranquil villages, absolutely gorgeous but slightly mysterious stately homes. There's literally thousands of years of history to discover along today's walk, and we're probably not going to uncover it all, but I'm really looking forward to finding out what we're going to discover. So I think it's time I shut up and we sallied forth as we once again go walking the dales. Would you believe that today's walk actually starts in a churchyard? I had to check the map twice because I've never seen a path that came through a churchyard before, but I'm delighted that it did because I've been here once before, and let me tell you, it really is a treat. St John the Baptist is also home to someone very special. In 1847, Algernon Percy and his wife Eleanor lived in a house that we're going to walk past actually later on today's walk. When they got a call, it was from the Duke of Northumberland's men, and they phoned them up to tell them that one of their distant relatives, the Duke of Northumberland, had died. He didn't have an heir, and they would have to take over. Imagine that. Now, this is pretty much the story of Bertie and Edith from Downton Abbey. And what's funny is Algernon and Eleanor moved to Alnwick Castle, which is exactly where Bertie and Eleanor moved to in Downton. Algernon was Duke and Eleanor was Duchess for a long time, until Algernon's death, and then Eleanor moved to a house just opposite the church, and she lived there for about another 40 years. She died in 1911, and she was offered a vault in Westminster Abbey, but she said no. She just wanted to be buried in the beautiful church that we've just walked through. And to be honest, I can't think of a better place to spend eternity than that. We're on our way to the village of Fawcett, but to my left is the first piece of evidence of the original inhabitants of Stanwick and all of this part of England actually. They were the Brigantes. They were a Celtic tribe that lived across England. I think there were 7 or 8 in total, but this was their land. And whilst they lived in a time before stone construction got really advanced, they were still able to construct really impressive and formidable defences to protect their population. That's actually one of the things that's drawn me here for years and has made me so excited about this walk, because I've seen little bits of that earthwork, but I've never seen it all, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to trace right the way round of the old Stanwick Hill Fort, its fortifications, its earthworks. Now, this place was actually dug, it's been dug many times, but it was famously dug by an archaeologist called Mortimer Wheeler back in the 1950s. And he's actually created a part of the ditch and the mound, and also there was a wall on top of it as well. Obviously that's all gone because it's thousands of years ago, but Mortimer Wheeler has reconstructed a proportion of the wall. Now it's a little bit of a detour off today's walk, but I think we should go take a look. Do you know what, folks? This is one of the most beautiful walks I think I've ever done. I'm just gobsmacked. The snow is playing a huge part to this, but the sort of gentle flow of the end of the dales also makes the most unbelievably gorgeous countryside. It's a real workout there, let me tell you. This ground is decidedly odd. It goes from being relatively easy underfoot to being unbelievably difficult, and it's going to be a real workout. I'm also getting quite warm. I think I'm going to have to remove my hat and maybe my cowl, would you believe it? This is actually the only section of the earthwork that I've visited before, and it's the first time actually that the ditch has been, not only is it flooded, but it's also frozen. But when you get up on top of this wall, you can start to get a feel for the place and start to understand what this earthwork was all about. Because to my left is a great big ditch and danger, and to my right is safety and the home of all the Brigantes. As I say, we're going to be walking around the whole of this today, but the reason why we've just taken a little shortcut up here is because I really wanted you to see the reconstruction that Mortimer Wheeler created in the 1950s, and it's just up here. It's difficult to comprehend how great an achievement that was. But just cutting out the bedrock for the wall on the top, even today, would be a monumental achievement. Thousands of families over the years would have lived here at Stanwick Hill Fort, and whilst their homes have long gone, the wall that protected them still remains, and what a fantastic monument I think it is to their civilization. Fast forward 2,000 years and people still live here, and what makes this place so beautiful is the little villages that have sprung up in a land once occupied by those fearsome Celtic warriors. Fawcett is one of those villages, and it's the next destination on our trail today. So it's highly likely that 1,000 years ago, this place started life as a field with some sheep in. So the question is, why did people start living here? And the answer lies on the outskirts of the village. Would you believe that we're walking along the boundary line to an 85-hectare country house estate just to my right? It's actually attached to the village. So the reason why people started living in Fawcett was because the great big house needed cooks and gardeners and butlers and all sorts. Makes perfect sense now, doesn't it? When we come back in part 2, we're going to be finding out all about Fawcett Hall, but we're also going to be going in search of the rest of those earthworks that surround the Brigantes Hill Fort. So you guys head off for a rest, and I'll see you later on in the show when we will once again be walking the Dales.
Oh my goodness, what a walk. I mean, just, it was like being transported to another country. It felt like a real privilege as well, actually, because that is, it's a gorgeous countryside without the snow. So to have that, it's so opposite to what you expect when you go out on these. And it really plays into the whole reason why we were so excited about this season of walking the Dales and Moors, because walking through the seasons, as we're seeing, is just the most wonderful experience. And, you know, I'll be honest, there were points where I was quite looking forward to it being summer.
This is going to be the next thing, isn't it? We're going to go from crazy fields to flooded roads. That was the ultimate Gore-Tex test for these Terex shoes, and I can tell you my feet feel dry.
But, you know, walking in that lovely, crisp, perfect snow, because that is what it was the whole way through. We've obviously still got the second half to come. Walking through that lovely, crisp snow, it was just like being in Sweden or Norway or Alaska or...
Yeah, because that snow we had, it's all gone now.
Totally different to any type of snow I've ever seen.
Yeah, that weather we had did come from Scandinavia.
Right.
And it was really, it was like really dry snow and very fluffy, and it wasn't our normal wet sort of slushy
Cloggy,
snow.
horrible stuff.
Yeah, it was
perfect.
absolutely gorgeous, and it looked kind of blue. It had a blueness to it. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's a whole second half to come. There's Knights Templar and all sorts of wonderful things. And that's all to come later on in the show, because now it's time for us to find out. Kay Jones, what's off your needles?
I do have some things. I went on a bit of a finishing kick last weekend. I just thought, do you know what? I just want to get some things finished. So I finished 2 things over the weekend, which was great. But before I show you those 2 things, I just wanted to mention that my Amore sampler socks were published on Valentine's Day. Woo-hoo. So these are now available for purchase on Ravelry and Lovecraft. I've spoken about these before. It's the ones that are lace motifs, and you've got different lace motifs on each sock, so no second sock syndrome. And lots of our lovely patrons knit along with these in our Valenvent running up to Valentine's Day. And so it's been gorgeous to see them in lots of different yarns, really lovely combinations. And everyone seemed to really enjoy it. So I really appreciated the number of people that joined in with that. It was really lovely to be able to do that. But the pattern is now available for anyone to purchase. And it is just one size. I've mentioned this before. It's just a 64 stitch size. So it's priced accordingly, even though the pattern is quite a lengthy pattern. I think it's like 12 pages, because each of the lace motifs though is fully written and fully charted. It is still only one size, so I'm aware of that, so I've made sure that I've priced it in line with that. So that's the Amore sampler socks. And the two things that I finished, so I finished my mittens just in time for the weather to turn to 11 degrees. So that's great timing. And it was like -7, -8, -9 last week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Really cold, really super cold. And it never got above freezing for quite a few days, so the snow did stick around. But then all of a sudden it was gone, and one day it was -7, the next day it was +7.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy weather. But anyway, it'll get cold again, won't it? We always need mittens. So look, I finished.
If you think we're now going to flow through into summer where you're not going to need warm mittens.
Well, Dan seems to think I'll be needing these, but I'm not convinced now.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
We will see. So yeah, these are my Cinder Smoke mittens by Kalura Hudson. I remembered her name. And they're all finished. I actually knit the second one in less than a day. I just got it in my head I wanted to finish the pair. Cast them on and just knit for a good few hours, and it was finished. So you could easily knit this pair in a day, I think, if you put your mind to it, if you wanted a quick pair of mittens. But I used a DK weight held double. They're really lovely and warm and snuggly. So I could have done the whole thing actually with the same yarn. I did have plenty left over, and it's Biff Sugar yarns, and the colourway is Vintage Rose in DK. And I love them. I'm really pleased to have them now. And even if I don't wear them this year, well, it will be this year, it might be the back end of this year. Well, we'll see. I love them. I haven't blocked them actually. I don't think they really need it. Because of the stitch pattern, I just don't feel like they need blocking. Lovely pattern. I really love that pattern.
What else is off your lovely needles?
I finished my Bits and Bobs cowl. Oh, look at that. Oh, it looks lovely. Really nice. I'll pop it on. And this is my design, the Bits and Bobs cowl, and I knit this. You knit it with 2 strands of fingering weight held together, so it's effectively about a DK. If you wanted to replace that, you could use a DK weight instead. And I used just a plain undyed skein which had sparkle in, and then I used a mini skein set from Pixie Yarn. This is my leftovers in Hey Little Apple Blossom. And I've just got those little bits left. So you use almost 100 grams of, I deliberately wanted little bits left over. You could just use the whole lot. But I just wanted a little bit left over because I like that. So let's pop it on. Oh, it's lovely. So it's just really squishy and gorgeous. And I love it. For me, it's the perfect snuggly warm cowl for those days, when you need that bit of warmth around your neck. And I've been wearing my other one still every morning when I get up. It goes on, and even actually some nights, because it's just been so cold lately, I've even put it on like after my shower at night time. I put it on with my pyjamas, and it's been brilliant. So I love it, and I love the colours as well. It's really nice to have something in a different colour, and you can wear it with the pale colour closer to your face as well for a different sort of look depending on what you're wearing, but it actually goes with this top really well.
Half the battle, I think, with any project, specifically ones like that, is getting the yarn choices right, isn't it? Because it just when it flows so well and when everything works so beautifully. I
think this just looked. I really like the. It looks more stripy on screen. Actually, it doesn't look as stripy as that in reality, does it? But it just. No. I really like it. That sort of gradient effect. It's really pretty. I love this pattern. I've knit 2 of them now, and I've obviously knit the Bits and Bobs pattern loads and loads of times. I've got cushions and blankets and everything. It's one of my favourites. I absolutely love it.
I can remember as if it was yesterday taking the photographs
for the blanket.
Scotland.
I know, we took the photos for the Bits and Bobs blanket when we were on holiday in Scotland, and it was beautiful for taking the photos.
It was around the bay from there is where that film was made with Burt Lancaster.
Oh yeah.
Something like something Hero. Oh, I can't
It's
remember.
A really pretty little village, isn't it? It's not even a village. It's just like a little row of houses, isn't it?
It's a load of fishing houses. I think they were.
Yeah. Very pleased with that, and I can wear it now, which is lovely.
Okay, look, enough talk. I think it's time that we got back. We finished off our gorgeous walk at lovely Stanwick St John.
Welcome back to Walk in the Dales. We're walking along the eastern boundary of an 85-hectare country house estate called Fawcett Park. It was sold in 2017 for the princely sum of £4 million. This is like Downton Abbey, but for real. As we leave Fawcett Park behind us, we're now going to just have a short section of road walking as we look to pick up the Celtic earthworks, the line of that boundary that we've been following all through today's walk. It's just a couple of miles down that way. This is all new ground to me now. Never seen any of this before in my life, so I'm really excited to see what we're going to find. Oh my goodness, I'm so glad to be saying goodbye to that road. It's only a short section, but crumbs, it was busy. But then there it was, before me, like a mirage. My goodness, from a completely flat field on a decidedly slippy track, we find ourselves on the inner side of the rampart. So this is it, folks. We're following the line, we're right next to it, of that earthen rampart. So just imagine that one that we saw, Mortimer's Wall, with the stone on the top and the great big ditch on the other side, and it would have been on the other side, because we're now walking along the inside of Stanwick Hill Fort. If I took you back 2,000 years, I'd be walking through a vast array of roundhouses. Now these were simple homes, round in structure, hence the name. And in the north of England, where we are, there were short stone walls and then straw topped with mud to keep the warmth in. Then there was a hole in the top of the roof and a fire was lit in the centre of the roundhouse to keep the family warm, to cook their food on. And then the smoke, of course, disappeared out the hole at the top. what's so impressive about this section of the rampart is you can see the difference in the height between nice and up high, just like castles became in the Middle Ages, nice and up high and secure, and then outside there you can see there now you're looking straight down on anyone who'd be coming in to attack you. It'd be easy to defend this spot. It's perfect. It's an amazing piece of construction for people, like we said earlier, who didn't have access to surveying equipment and big tools, anything. Amazing. Thanks to the Roman historian Tacitus, we actually know quite a lot about the last king and queen of the Brigantes. We're now just on the outside of the wall, just crossed over, and you can actually see it there. So we're on the dangerous side, and the king and queen would have lived over the other side of that wall. Now, what were they called? They were called King Venutius and Queen Cartimandua, and they lived and ruled from here the whole of the Brigantian Empire, which really is pretty much Yorkshire. So I think it's the largest actually of all the Celtic tribes, and everything was going swimmingly. Husband and wife and ruling, and everybody's happy. And then along came King Caractacus. And I'm not referring to Dick Van Dyke in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, oh no. King Caractacus was king of the Cassivelluni tribe, and they lived down around Wales. And they defeated the Romans in a really vicious battle in 51 AD. And after the battle, King Caractacus turned up here looking for sanctuary. And they took him in, and they thought everything was fine. But it wasn't, because Queen Cartimandua handed him over to the Romans. Because what they'd realised was, what Venutius and Cartimandua had realised was, that the way to survive wasn't to work against the Romans, but was to actually work with the Romans. And clearly Venutius wasn't down with that plan, because within 5 years of Queen Cartimandua handing over King Caractacus to the Romans, they divorced. But amazingly, it was Cartimandua who stayed here and remained queen, and it was Venutius who had to leave and go elsewhere. She must have been quite the woman. The cow's back on, folks. It's so cold, but when the sun's out it does warm up a bit, but I'm really quite cold now. Now, due to excessive farming, the ditch has virtually disappeared, and the rampart is still there, but it's really quite small. I'll just get up on this high bit. It's because all this land has obviously been farmed pretty intensely for thousands of years. But it's still there though. You can still make it out and you can still see it. There's still that rise, still that ditch. You can just imagine how terrifying it must have been trying to rush up this way and invade in to try and get to Queen Cartimandua or King Venutius when he was still here. We're back following the line of that fortification. We found it again. It's appeared from the fields. And we're actually just skirting our way around another gorgeous village. And this one is really quite important because it gave its name to the hill fort. Because just over there is the gorgeous Stanwick St John. Makes me think of Brigadoon. Brigadoon? Maybe it's just me. And what a place Stanwick is. Because obviously it's got links to the Brigantes and Queen Cartimandua. But what would you say if I told you that from 1275 till 1307, Stanwick was in control, or should I say, the people who were in control of Stanwick were the Knights Templar. Now, you might have heard of these guys before. These were the warrior monks who, in the Middle Ages and really up to 1307, they used to keep the routes to the Holy Land secure. And they were an amazing organisation because they really were the world's first bank as well. You could pay money in one city, and then the idea was you'd go off on pilgrimage to the Holy Land, and then you'd be able to withdraw your money and keep it safe. Writers for generations have been fascinated by these guys. Dan Brown in particular based an awful lot of his book, The Da Vinci Code, around stories related to these Knights Templar. And also, the most amazing thing about the Knights Templar is they were the people who gave us the tradition that Friday the 13th is unlucky. And why is that? Well, that's because on Friday the 13th of October, 1307, the King of France, who owed the Knights Templar an awful lot of money, decided that instead of paying them back, he would just wipe them out. And he did so on Friday the 13th. And that's why, to this day, Friday the 13th is seen by many people as unlucky. We're actually walking along an old pack horse track that over the years just became concreted, and now it's a really popular route between Aldborough St John, which is just sort of over that way, and Stanwick St John, which is just over that way. And don't panic, we haven't lost the line of the earthwork. It's just sort of veered off through a private house just over there. It's in the distance, so we're going to pick it up in a minute. We're on the outside looking in now, so I don't feel very safe at all. I want to get back in front of a nice warm fire in one of the roundhouses. Just coming past the house that, remember Algie and Eleanor? Eleanor moved here and lived here for about 40 years, and then she died in 1911, and that's when she was buried in the churchyard, which we started in today's walk, which is actually just over there now. The final little secret, hidden in plain sight, right in the heart of Stanwick Hill Fort, lies just up here. Because the question some of you may have been wondering all through today's walk is, what precisely were those huge fortifications defending? Well, at the centre of any fort lies its most important place, and that's its citadel. That's the home of its king or queen. Because this was the central point, the most important place in all of Stanwick Hillfort, the home of Queen Cartimandua. When I say huge amounts of finds, I really do mean huge amounts. There was Roman coins and pottery and just all sorts found when the archaeologists dug here. It's fairly evident how the Romans were keeping the brigantes on side. They were bribing them. This must have been quite the place to live in 60 AD, full of the most amazing goods from all over the world. Truly the home of a decadent queen. And I can think of no better place to finish today's walk. And what a walk it's been. Ladies and gentlemen, I have absolutely loved this walk. My goodness, Stanwick Hillfort is such an amazing place, and I can totally understand now why Mick Aston adored it here so much. As you walk through the tranquil villages and you see the lovely sights along the way, from the amazing ditches to the beautiful churches and all the things that we've seen today, you just get the sense that this was once such an important place. So from the home of Queen Cartimandua and her band of fearless brigantes, it's time for me to say goodbye, but fear not, because I'll be back soon when we will once again be walking the moors.
Oh, it's lovely, wasn't it?
We'll go to the foot of our stairs.
I know.
What a walk. Beyond epic. And just... my mind is blown for an area which we have dipped into for years to suddenly understand, you know, the amount of times that we'd parked and walked into that church.
We have, yeah.
Not even realising that hill. Did you see that hill that I walked up when we were going up to Queen Cartimandua's citadel? That hill was built by the brigantes. That was flat. They built that up to stick on top the citadel.
I think you do always presume, don't you, when you see hills like that, that they're just natural, but quite often they're not.
And then also finding out too about, you know, the wonderful story of Eleanor and Algernon, who, can you imagine getting that call? And what I didn't mention in the show was, or maybe I did, I can't recall, but I found a number of sources that said that Julian Fellows, who wrote Downton Abbey, his whole storyline with Edith and Bertie was inspired by that story. Because, but thought the similarities
are
completely
lots of
insane.
Similarities, yeah.
It's like...
See, they could have called Bertie Algae, couldn't they? That would have worked.
Yes.
Algernon, that would have worked.
Now, if you enjoyed that, and in fact, if you enjoy anything that we do, because we simply would not exist were it not for our Bakery Bear patrons. And for $2 a month, the equivalent, or the local, I can't speak now, the local equivalent where you live of $2 American a month, you can keep us on air and get access to our live show and get our latest copy of Knitability whenever we produce one. And that will keep us doing what we do. It will keep us walking the dales and walking the moors and dyeing the colourways and cooking the puddings. And
no, I've not done any puddings for ages, have I?
You did a whole season last year.
I know. It just seems
it was like the most mammoth of all.
That's true, I did.
Look, we have plans for later on this year.
Yeah, we do.
So
yeah, we do.
Don't panic, everybody. Don't panic, Mr. Mannering.
Oh, gosh, that was funny, wasn't it?
But yes, for literally $2 a month, you can keep us on air and become a Bakery Bear patron. Join our wonderful community. To find out everything there is to know about becoming a Bakery Bear patron, just follow the link below, which is also listed in the show notes, and it will tell you all. Folks, it's time for the Endy Bits.
Endy Bits.
Now then, Kay has got the most lovely looking pattern.
I bought a pattern. Now, there's a story. I suddenly had I was wearing a particular jumper one day, right, that I've got, and it's a bought jumper, and it's quite a chunky yarn that it's been knit in. It's obviously not hand knit. And I wear it quite often. It's more of a tunic length. I do like tunic length jumpers, just to wear them with leggings. I just think it's really comfortable, and it seems to suit my body shape, if you want to say that. So I thought, well, do I want to knit one? Oh, do I? I don't know. I'm still not decided. However, I thought, let's go looking for a pattern. So I did have a look on Ravelry, and I just searched on chunky and sweaters, because I thought, I can always lengthen something. That's not a problem. But it just seemed to be a wash with cropped styles, and also I think these big bishop sleeves are very much in fashion at the moment, and neither of those two styles, unfortunately, are my thing. And styles go in rotation, don't they? So I thought, right, okay, what can I do? Where can I sort of maybe try and find something that would suit me more? Some
fashions are timeless, though, and I cannot imagine that bishop sleeves are going to be timeless.
No, I don't think they will be, and I don't think cropped things also. I mean, you see, I see a cropped style as more for a younger person. You're all shouting at me now, I'm sure, but I think it depends on your body shape for cropped.
Cropped things depend on your body shape and depend on your body confidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think, for ladies, that is...
Because if I was...
it's quite fair, really.
No,
because...
I mean, if I was wearing something cropped, I would have to wear a longer sort of vest or something underneath it. I could never just wear... Maybe, I see a lot of younger people wearing sort of high-waisted jeans and then a little crop top, and it looks brilliant. It looks great, but you've got to have the right body shape for it, I think, anyway. And... it's just not. I'm just not confident enough to wear cropped either. Even if I was wearing something underneath it, it just doesn't feel right. So, but right, okay, I'm going to go old school, and I'm going to look on the King Cole website. King Cole is a very old brand of yarn producer and pattern producers in this country, and I thought I'm going to look on their website, and they've got tons of patterns, and you can filter it just like you can on Ravelry. So I searched on there and I found this pattern. I thought, oh yeah, that's kind of just what I'm looking for, and it's chunky weight, and I really liked the yarn it was knit with. It's King Cole yarn. So I thought, right, okay, I'll go and have a look and see if I can find the yarn. And again, there seemed to be a global shortage of this particular yarn. They did have it in some colours, but I didn't like them. The good colours had all been bought out. I thought, right, okay, I'm going to buy the pattern anyway, because I'm sure the yarn will come back into stock. So this is the pattern that I picked up. So it's pattern number 4981. And can you see, it's just this really sort of simple tunic. I like that big chunky neck, but if I didn't want it that chunky, I could just shorten that. And I like the buttons at the side, and I like that sort of texture pattern that's on the front. And I also do like that yarn. And the yarn it uses is King Cole Cotswold Chunky, and the colour of that one is called Burford. And I looked everywhere and I couldn't find anywhere that had it in stock. There were a couple of colours, but they were just like sort of really pale pastel-y colours. And although I love to knit with those colours, I wouldn't wear a great big tunic-y thing in those colours. I'd want something a bit more subdued. And at first I thought I'll just use any chunky yarn. I'll just use a different chunky yarn. But I do actually quite like that.
Yeah.
That look. I think it's really nice, and I think it would make the knit quite interesting to have a different sort of yarn. It does come with another pattern. It's like a 2-for-1, but I don't like that one very much. I don't like the neckline. It's too wide and gappy. It's too, I don't know, it's not really me, but I do really like that tunic. So I'm just going to keep, every time I go on on Wool Warehouse. I did look on Lovecrafts as well, I think. But I'll just keep an eye out, and if it comes back in stock, maybe I'll get it. I'll see whether the urge is worn off by then.
Cool.
I'm not sure, but I just wanted to say that just in case, if you're not using Ravelry currently or just want to look somewhere else, you'll find that the yarn companies like King Cole on their websites, they do have lots of patterns, so I think it's a good resource.
Our Amazonian Warrior Challenge is well underway, so please do come and get involved. If you're any walker and runner and you'd like to come and get involved, all the information on how to get involved is in the show notes. If you're a patron knitter, please do come and help knit the length of the Amazon River.
Doing amazingly well. I think there's over 300 entries.
We will be giving our first update.
Yes.
Our first official update of the Amazonian Warrior Challenge in the patron-only live show, which is coming out on Sunday at 2 p.m. GMT, Sunday the 28th of February.
So last day of February.
So that's next Sunday.
Yes.
But obviously it depends when you watch this. Just go with the date.
Yeah.
It's the 28th of February at 2 p.m. GMT. Also, our next radio show will be out next week. Last week's radio show, we were talking about biscuits. Next week's radio show, we're talking about tea. We're talking about coffee. We're talking about our ongoing quest for perfect peppermint tea. Preferably not ones which taste of mushrooms, but that's all to come.
Yeah, I've got over it now. I'm drinking it this morning. It's okay.
That's all to come in our next radio show. Yes, it's our little sort of tea and biscuits. They have to go together. We just did the biscuits first. People love the biscuit one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
We had someone messaged us yesterday, I think it was just today, saying that they'd listened to the show over their breakfast and they found themselves finishing their breakfast with biscuits. All thanks to us. That's the way to go. So, folks, that's it. What a show. The first one ever in 4K. I hope you enjoyed it. Oh, yes. From now on, this will be the picture quality that you enjoy for everything that we produce. So thank you so much for watching.
Thanks, everybody.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks for a whole lot more.
See you soon.
Bye.
Enthusiasm's not quitting for Stan and Kay the bakery bears. They'll take you to fabulous places of which their favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern and get yourself a bakery bear. You'll find yourself in a castle while watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery bears. What's on your shelf or what's in your